All right. Hello, everybody, for tuning in. This is our first official podcast for Kampri Foundation, and here we have a very special guest, Mr. Theodore Henderson from the We the Unhoused podcast. Follow them on Instagram for sure, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me, and I always have a special type of love for when we start off doing podcasts from the beginning, because I didn't have all of these same things, the accoutrements, like I look at like Charlemagne the game or other well-established ones. I think the future is for the average everyday person to get our experiences that's not always looked at by the middle and upper class society. So yes, thank you for having me. And I'm very touched that you are enjoying what I've been doing so far, but I have more to come.
Yeah. So if we could get into a little bit about the more that you have to come, like I remember going on your Instagram page and I remember seeing a lot of your comics that you post, because I feel like that's a great way to get people to digest the information a little bit more than reading a block of words. Like seeing characters that, and then knowing that these are actual people that went through these experiences. I feel like it's a very intimate setting when learning about other people's experiences. So could you like explain a little bit more about that, and like how you're going to bring it about, future plans, what to look out for, things of that nature?
Sure. Actually, the genesis of the idea was started off with my own experience, and to give you a little bit of experience, I have an undergraduate. I'm an educator. I means I taught in school, and I always used to follow in the tradition with how my teachers used to teach me, is in understanding comics allow people to escape for a moment to their circumstances. I did it, and I also know it opens up conversational points that takes the pressure off of maybe family issues and family arguments. And I'll give you an example. One of the times, and I did this comic, and someone commented me on my first one, and they contacted me and said, I showed this comic to my aunt, who was, I believe, a cop or something like that, and explained, and it took the tension that they've been having with the protests and things of that nature, and it made them not feel like that they were being attacked, but they were able to see the point what they were trying to make. And that is why I do the comics. We're trying to do at least 10 to 12 series in order for us to delve into slowly into a larger graphic novel of different series, along with animation. We're trying to also do some animation with this as well, because our younger population likes it. It's a little bit, like you say, much more digestible. They can relate to it. Like the older generation likes my longer YouTube videos because it's to their generation, because they did do comics, but they definitely like the sit down kind of thing, because I get a lot of comments of that. And then I get the ones that I also have the auditory. I have a lot of people that go to work and like not just necessarily see it, but have to listen to it. So I've been trying to hit every modality as I possibly can. So the end result is like I'm trying to do is like a documentary about Black and House Lives Matter with animation and comics as well, instead of the traditional way that I usually do it, to create the story through, like I said, comics, because it's easier to, like you say, easier to catch on to.
Okay, that's great. Also, by the way, quick question. If we could ask,
Yes.
like, how old are you?
I'm 47. Well, I should say I'm 18, but but I'm getting up there. That's
Yeah.
But
I mean, age is all.
I look back.
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. But yeah. I try to tell myself that, but my body says, you know what, you can't do those James Brown splits anymore, so give it up.
Yeah, if it makes you feel better, I can't do a James Brown split anyway, and I'm an athlete.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's so good. That's the thing. I have been around for some time. I'm not originally from here. I'm from Chicago, and my parents
wow.
were from the South. So, and I've been around, as you say, as well. And then my lived experiences of being unhoused is over 7 years. So, and that's, yeah. And people always ask, and I wanted to always tell them, because why, you're so educated, you're so this, you're so that, and why, why are you out here? I always tell them, first of all, when you become unhoused, they don't have an application process that says you're too smart to be unhoused. You can't be unhoused. Things happen, and it's like I was mentioning about the elderly population that I see, because sometimes it shocks me that you see this and you're like, my God, it's hard enough for me. I can't see how people 80 years old or 83 out here and just survive. So I'm
or
very,
people with disabilities too.
Oh my God, yes. Like there's this husband and wife couple. The guy has cancer. He has end-stage cancer, and he's out here. I mean, so it's like so many missing stories. That's what propels me and compels me to have to let everyone know about it. There is no age discrimination. There's no educational background. There's no issue that you can blame someone for their choices to be out here. People in all stripes and all walks of life are out here. And this life happens to everybody. And we live in a capitalistic society, and there are winners and losers, and there are people that, where the people that are not going to win in this capitalistic game, where they're going to go? Well, usually on the streets. The incomes are getting, let's be real, the incomes are getting much more smaller. The rent's getting much higher.
Especially in California, right? And you said you're from LA, right? Like the LA
I'm
area,
from
that's where you live?
But I'm in LA now, but I'm from Chicago.
How long have you been in LA for?
I've been in LA going on 12 years.
Okay. So being there for 12 years, I think that's that's a very long time. And I have a very, so you've seen kind of the rent skyrocket, you've seen the cost of living shoot all the way up, and you kind of seen this wealth gap that's accumulating, grow further and further and further. But as I'm from Georgia, right? I live in New York now, but I'm from Georgia, where I could make $300 less a month if I tried. And so to hear life in California where rent could be $4,500 for a studio or something like that, that's unfathomable. Absolutely unfathomable. So someone living in that situation, what was it like for you? Because I know a lot of people where I come from can't imagine paying more than $800 to $1,300 for a studio with a kitchen and a washing machine and a walk-in closet.
If that much. If that much. In California, it's like the greed level here is so high, and it's very challenging. When I first got here, I was surprised because I didn't just was born in being unhoused. I was an educator and I got ill, and I had to battle because just because you get ill doesn't mean your rent still gotta get paid, and then you gotta understand the insurance way it is here. It's ridiculously high too, and you got to heal, pay for your medication and your food. So then it became a juggling act, and then try to work. So I noticed that there was no really safety gaps anywhere in the country, but particularly in California, is because the speculation of 2008 it hit California very hard. And that's why a lot of people, and which is why you see a lot of a little bit maybe more differently than other issues, is because the rents are so high. Even that's why you see so many elderly. That's why you see so many disabled people out here more maybe somewhere else. The weather has a part, but it's because people that had lived their lives and worked hard, and it's all of the things that people always say. And then all of a sudden they get they max out of their disability or their retirement and things like that. They evict them too, just like the younger generation, and they don't care if you're 80, they don't care if you're sick, they don't care if you got Alzheimer's or dementia or your family is not around or whatever. You got to go in the street, and and that's just what capitalism does here in Los Angeles. Our city council puts a lot of money and gets a lot of bribes from developers, and insert these developers into attacking the people that are displaced or thrown out of their communities. They can't be on the sidewalks, they can't be in the parks. They use all kind of propaganda to push the onus on the people that are
homeless,
victimized.
Yeah. I have a quick question.
It's really crazy.
About that.
Yes.
So about that, like, one thing that was trending on social media for a decent amount of time, which should have definitely garnered more attention, was hostile architecture, right? And hostile architecture, hostile building, things of that nature.
Yes,
how does that, like, how would you think that affects the unhoused community in high income areas like LA, where the wealth discrepancy is so big that you're expected to be able to drop $4,500 for living expenses alone for rent, not even counting insurance, food, God forbid you get sick, anything of that nature. And then just to be put outside and to find out that, like, now you can't even sleep.
Yes. It is, well, for me, I could tell you some stories. It has been so disconcerting and so much frustrating because there's a perfect storm of antipathy against the unhoused community. They don't want to see encampment settlements. And poverty is a different lifestyle and a different skill set than living in a house. There's so much you have to manage from day to day, survival to survival. And most times, most of the unhoused communities usually try to stay near where there are bathrooms, food, areas to be able to generate some income to try to just basically survive. And let's be realistic, usually it's in areas where there's wealth because, you're not going to, there are unhoused people in impoverished areas, but that's usually because there's compassionate people that care about them and will try to help keep some of the pieces together. But mostly they try to stay in financially secure areas because that's where they're trying to make a living or survive. Therein lies the problem. There is a lot of NIMBYs that may be Democratic and Republican that feels like they despise the fact that unhoused people are getting money or they're not working, which is a ridiculous, it's an oxymoron, to tell you the truth. Because anytime you work out here on unhoused, you're 24/7 job. Trust and believe. You ain't sitting here.
I have another question, right? Like, if you're unhoused, don't you need to have like an address to apply to most jobs?
Exactly. And
like, isn't it a big oxymoron?
Have a phone to be able to take a job?
Yeah. Don't you have to have a place to clean up so that you can go to your interview looking presentable to the highest degree, which also inherently means you need clothes for the interview. Exactly. I feel like a lot of people don't understand this concept of just get a job doesn't work, because on top of juggling everything else, you still need to save up the money from which you have the job. So even if you get a job, it's not like, bam, job, here you go, here's your house. No, it's like, you got to have a job.
Here's the kicker to that. There are people out here that are working and they are living in their car. But here's the thing. Now imagine if, just for example, you are trying to find a job, right? And you get your stuff all set up and you get your job and you come back and all your stuff taken by the police. It's thrown in the trash. Or then what happens now? Now you got to start all over with that same paycheck that you may have gotten, to start all over to have it happen again. Because you don't, if you don't have your place to store it, if you don't have a car or store, money enough for storage, then you butt out. It's just not.
And then even another important thing I feel like a lot of people don't understand is it's expensive to not have a place to live, and that's why there's such a big gap between the time in which you can secure a job and then the time in which you can secure a place, because in having a house,
not only that, background checks.
That too.
That's the background checks, whole thing. Yeah, the rent deposit. And if you're out here on the street, who's got money laying around that they can do a first and last month's rent, key deposit, background check, and being able to move. You know, it's really crazy. It really
especially
is.
in a place like California, right? And that leads
Yes.
me to like something else that I feel a lot of people need to understand. The Section 8 housing in California. So in Georgia, it's a little like you
Mm-hmm.
just apply to be on a list and you'll get picked probably within 6 months.
Oh no, not here in Los Angeles, California. Here's a 10-month waiting list. They had to close. They closed it, and then when I was in the hospital, they opened it for a lottery, and even you have to, if just by chance if they pick you, then that doesn't guarantee. That's another 5 years for them to interview. You have to, and then too, here's the crazy part about it. You got to always check in to make sure that you are still needing this place. So yeah. And this is versus people that are on the street. They are dealing from day to day, trying to keep up with all of the appointments. Maybe they got doctor's appointments and things like that, or if they get the things taken away. Yeah, school, yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And then too, you have to come back and call and say, well, you know, we don't have anything for you. Try again in maybe a couple of months. You know, the
Adds
system is
another
so
thing.
messed up.
It adds another layer
Ridiculous.
of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's ridiculous. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how just that rhetoric explain. I think that does a really good job at explaining to people that just getting a house isn't that easy, because even when there's programs to give you a
Exactly.
house, just to get the house is hard. There's no. I feel like there's no.
Thank
Do
you.
you feel like your day to day in like without having a stable place to live is met with a lot and a lot and a lot of stress and a lot and a lot and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
what's the word? A lot
Shame.
of yeah, a lot of shame, because I feel like they dehumanize the unhoused community
Yes.
for being in this position without understanding that, like, okay, this is everything you have to pay for day to day. This is everything you have to keep track of day to day. And then combine working an 8-hour shift and then saving however much money you need for first month's rent, last month's rent, making sure that your job
You
is
know what's
consistent enough.
I have to tell you a story that's funny. I was unhoused, and at the time, and I got me a job. And the hardest thing to do is to listen to people talk about unhoused people. And these people, for some reason, because there were unhoused people near where I worked at, but I was unhoused too. But only difference is I was employed, and I had to hear them treat them badly. I had to hear them talk so badly about them, and I had to keep up a presentation that I'm not like these people in my house, and pitting us together. When an unhoused person would be there, I was the one called to go out and run them out, or tell them to leave and things like that. And I'm listening to how they talked about it. And I listened. I says, man, what if you one night see me out here on my day off and I'm sleeping out here? What are you gonna do? Because then that's another stress, because I already know how they feel about unhoused people. That means I can probably lose my damn job, because you say get a job, but you really don't really mean it. You're just saying it just to be saying it. But
Yeah.
but you really don't want to help unhoused people anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a very good point to bring. There's a lot of victim blaming, I feel like, without understanding the
Yes, it is.
circumstances. So, like, do you feel that California has a lot of social programs? There are Section 8
Mm-hmm.
programs, and I can't, the name of the exact name of the program is slipping me. But do you feel like all of these programs that they have are sufficient, or do you feel like they're just kind of saying, you know what, it's kind of like, here, take this and get away from me? Like, do you feel like it's more so to just throw something to someone, or actually trying to solve the issue? Because I know a lot of places.
No, it's not. No, it's not really there. Because here's the conundrum. The Republican states have a lot of unhoused people, and they don't come to California per se, but they have a very antipathy against unhoused. California tries to label itself as a democratic thing, but I have to contend and say that they only in name, because they are more Republican than in some respects of the ways that they treat unhoused people than Republicans give them credit for. So a lot of times these programs are just Band-Aids on a broken leg. And sometimes it's just to, a lot of times, I'll give you an example here. The only reason why the city will move to help people that are unhoused out here is through grassroots organizations. For example, like Street Watch, DSA, Los Angeles Community Action Network, what was it? K-Town for All. These other organizations that push and get out in the street and physically have to shame them to do something. And that's how Project Room Key really took off. And we're really still trying to push that because the city NIMBYs, we call them NIMBYs, not in my backyard. These are the people that don't want to see unhoused people. We say there's no reason for people to be out on the street in a pandemic when we have empty hotel rooms that got showers, they got all of the things that you don't have to do, you don't have to waste money for, to put in, and they're there, and they don't want to even do that. So that tells you just the length of how much of lip talk they have. And they let the people that are in businesses that despise the unhoused and create organizations like Business Improvement District security officers and things that have close relationships with the cops in the city to dictate what they're going to do to help the unhoused. And conversely, they also have a very predilection for creating ordinances and laws against unhoused people. Like it's really a crime to be poor. And despite what they're saying, is really they have legislation out here. For example, you can't sleep somewhere, you can't sit somewhere, and you can go to jail, and they'll ticket you until you get a record, and you will be incarcerated. They really believe in this very punitive approach instead of a humane approach. So therein lies a lot of issues that if the city really wanted to do something, they would have been easily said, we're going to command your hotels. We're going to you have a choice. Either you're going to help these unhoused people during this pandemic, or we're going to shut your building down. We could do eminent, because here we have eminent domain. That means that I don't care if you own your building or things like that. If the city needs it, they'll come and say, we have eminent domain. We want this building. We'll give you a payout, but we're getting this building. And there's nothing they can do about it. And which is what they should have done before. They should have really, because of a lot of these issues and these actions, that's because of these they coddle these organization groups like the NIMBYs and Business Improvement District. They should have ran these thugs out of here, and then maybe it wouldn't have been so ridiculously over 60,000 unhoused people here in the city. That's how I look at it.
I think that's a very, very good way to look at it. I think that's a very good way to look at the situation. Because I know in Georgia, there are a decent amount of programs, but also the cost of living is a lot lower, so that it is simple. And do you guys have Salvation Army?
Yeah, we do. We have Salvation Army, and I have mixed feelings about Salvation Army, but I digress. And I have to say, Salvation Army it can be very different in different areas. I used to be at the Salvation Army in Texas, which was different than the Salvation Army here. So, I don't want to use a broad brush, but then they still have some similarities that I really wish we really get out of that notion of what we have about unhoused people in these programs. But that's another conversation.
Yeah, that's another little podcast we have together.
Yes.
So so time's running out, and I want to ask one question for you personally, right? Do you feel that the dehumanization of unhoused people and the punitive approach to punishing people for being down on their luck only adds more gasoline to the fire that's ever so growing in LA?
Absolutely. It's the one thing I will say about Los Angeles. They do a very good job in demonizing unhoused people. They make it, and this is exactly what they do. They are the city council, along with the police, they tag team and go to these Business Improvement District meetings, and they make it such austere and so horrific about them being attacked or broken into their cars, or these They are the unhoused community. These are the code words that you had to listen for. They're a danger to children. They're a danger to the elderly. They're mentally ill, and they're drug addicted. Those are the major ones that they drive home, and they instruct business improvement districts when they see people that are on substance usage, which is another conversation, and mental health. You cannot beat them into sobriety. You cannot shoot them into mental sanity. So if they're mentally ill, it's a disability. And if they're out of the street, it's very difficult to regulate medication. And I'm saying, I would like to believe, and it's hard for me to keep on my medication and eat the right foods and go, so imagine if you have mental health issues or dementia or all these other things, and you see the side effects or the medication or whatever, and you don't have a home. Of course, where are they going to go and have these episodes? They can't have it in the house. They can't have it in a safe space where they have people that are trained to know this is what's normal for abnormal behavior and to get them to be stabilized. Of course, if you don't have any places for them to go, they're going to be on the street. It's really simple, but they don't look at it like that. They keep amping up and creating things we have in Los Angeles is very different than other places. We call them special enforcement zones. We have painted the picture so badly that unhoused people are such a danger that in certain zones within 500 feet of maybe a building or shelter or schools, that they can't sleep there. And if they are, the police comes and arrests and have the concerned citizens come and attack the unhoused community there. And so those things are part of the problem, which is going to get worse thanks to the pandemic out here, because people are being evicted. I don't know if you've been seeing on the news, but there's a lot of people are getting evicted out of their homes out here. So, kids. When they had one where a woman with the kid out here when she's pregnant, living in a car for several. So it's a real thing that hasn't really captured a lot of national attention yet, but it will soon. You're going to see a lot of people out here, and police officers, it's going to be ridiculous that, that's all their job going to be, just running out unhoused people from one neighborhood to another, because there's nowhere else for them to go unless they talk about going to the ocean.
Until they talk about going to and even in Hawaii, we're getting in trouble for being on the beach. So they can't even go to the ocean. It's a very sad, it's a very interesting conversation to have, especially when you're not only reading about it in a book or on an Instagram post, but actually hearing about people's individual experiences, because a lot of people don't understand that the average American is a $500 expense away from homelessness.
Yeah,
the average American
now.
less than that, right? Like, honest to God, if I'm in here and a pipe burst, right? Like, I had a pipe burst in my toilet. Luckily enough, my friend and we were able to fix it. But pipe burst, especially in New York City, at first the first person wanted to charge us $825, and $825 for most people, and $825 is well above the surprise limit of whatever, and will send most people into crippling debt, especially now with with the management of how the pandemic's been handled and a lot of stress on our economy, jobs and wage cuts. So I feel like this does a really good job at reminding people, like, you're a lot closer to not having a home than to being Jeff Bezos. Because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that concept. Like, you're a lot closer,
very much so.
A lot closer to being unhoused, because it's a looming threat for most people that they're not aware of until it happens, and then you're stuck like Chuck. Because nobody wakes up today.
Not only that, too.
Like,
and not only that, to add on to that, it's like you don't know where to go once you become when you find that in your horizon, because many times, and I'm going to say it because it needs to be said, a lot of the people that have these incidents happening to them in Los Angeles, California, they shared those same views about unhoused people, and then they realize that life happens to them, and they don't know where to go, and then they realize the damage of them pushing these same ideas of these ordinances and things like that. They're going to be used against them too, because there's no
distinction.
No, at all. They're going to say that they're a danger to kids. They're going to say all of the things that they say horrifically about unhoused people.
Yeah, that's terrible. But okay, thank you. This is all the time we have for today. This one will be uploaded shortly, and then we could have our next interview come up soon. I'd like to thank you for your time again. And
Thank you
everybody,
for
make sure.
having me.
Thank you. Make sure to tune in to Mr. Henderson's own podcast at We the Unhoused. It's a great show. Brings light to a lot of different basically things throughout the unhoused experience. And one last question for you. If you're going to support the
Yes.
unhoused community, what's the best way to support them financially, with goods? What is the best way to support somebody who is
I think
suffering
all
from
of the
being unhoused?
above. And people deal with people should give without conditions. That means if you see an unhoused person and you feel touched that you have a couple of change in your pocket, don't put conditions. Well, you need it for food. He might not need it for food. He might need it for soap and water for him to take a bath that he wants. He might need it for whatever personal reason, and we shouldn't have to feel we have to interrogate and account for a gift. Give them the money. Maybe they need to have pain management. You never know, because some of them out here may use because California marijuana smoking is legal. So that's a different thing. They may need pain management because like the gentleman that has got cancer and dying, he does a holistic kind of thing. So we have to look at we have to really challenge our stereotypes of how we look at unhoused people. So there's a lot of pain going on out here. There's a lot of ways that people are trying to cope. Just give with a non-conditional heart, and it's very, very important to do that.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you again.
Great day. Thank you for tuning in with us.